Midnight! And yes, kids, that says midnight. It's not just some weird squiggly lines. I know they don't teach cursive anymore in school, but this game really wants to bring it back with a passion, because it sure does look fancy. This budget indie title is like a golf puzzler, if that makes any sense. There's over 25 levels to play and replay. Each level you can get up to 3 stars. And the less time it takes you to get to the goal, the more stars you get. The graphics have a dark cave sort of feel to them, and I liked it. It worked well with the gameplay. Each level design feels different, but it's not always consistent. Some levels are very hard, which need precision hits, and some are extremely forgiving. You use the gamepad to draw a line in the direction you want the ball to be hit, and the length of the line is how hard you're going to hit it. And it worked fine. I wish there were indicators on how much power you're putting into your shot, and not just eyeballing it to see how long your line is. However, since there's unlimited tries, it's really not that big a deal. One of the odd things is that the title would introduce elements of gameplay and then just abandon them completely. An example of this was in one of the early levels. There's an enemy who would race you to the goal. So this brought in a different gameplay mechanic, which was speed and accuracy, because you only had seconds to hit your ball before the enemy got there. Being a beginning level, I would just assume this was an easier version of a challenge that would get harder down the line. But as far as I could remember, that enemy never bothered me again. The enemy character would show up in levels from time to time, but it would either do nothing or just go rolling off into the distance. Why tease us with gameplay elements that you don't ever use again? Also, one of the levels was just annoying, not because it was too hard, but because it was just tedious. You had to keep hitting your ball into this cannon, and it would have been nice if you could decide where it would launch, but it was all up to chance, so it took forever to break down this wall. It wasn't fun, it was just boring. But that being said, I did enjoy this game. The levels for the most part were fun to play. They had bouncing walls, fire pits, switches, and other gameplay elements. Each level did feel unique, and I had a lot of enjoyment playing most of the levels. They can get very challenging, but it never felt unfair. You also have to give props to a game for calling you out for being awesome for beating a game. Look at all that cursive. So much cursive. Midnight really surprised me. For a budget indie title, I liked the way it looked. It controlled fine, and there were a lot of great gameplay elements that made each level different. I picked this up for 99 cents, and while I wish there were more levels, I do feel like I got my money's worth, so I do think it's worth a buy. Well, that's my review of Midnight. Why don't you check out my previous review of Tiny Galaxy, or you can check out my classic review of The Underground. I thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe.